It's time for the Leadership Lunch Break with Joy Jackson of Speaking of Joy. Let's tune in for today's discussion with Twana Moore of Personally She.
Is someone very special to me. This is a lady that I really want to share information with you. This is Miss Twana Moore. I have said that she has changed the game of e-commerce, and I say that because as you hear her story, you'll find out more about her, and you'll truly find out just what I mean by that. Because in her circle, what she's done and the moves that she's made are truly, 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 truly phenomenal. So I want to welcome Miss Twana Moore to the Leadership Lunch Break. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so glad that you're here as we talk about leadership taking courage. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yay. Hey, everyone. My name is Twana Moore. I am an e-commerce brand owner. Well, I'm a former educator turned full-time entrepreneur. And I'm currently an e-commerce brand owner as well as an e-commerce coach as well. And so, yeah, my story started with me just being an educator for 16 years. And last year I quit. And so this is my first year in over 16 years not being in the school right now. So
Cool. So tell everybody like how you made that, because today we're talking about leadership takes courage. And if you don't understand courage, think about that. To have been in a role for 16 years doing the same thing, and then to step out on what I call it's got to be faith and do something totally different. How did that happen? How did you get there? Like,
wow. Yeah. So I had an idea. I'm a graphic t-shirt lover. Absolutely love graphic t-shirts. And I wasn't finding myself finding shirts that said the things I wanted them to say. You know, I'd be like, oh, it'd be cool to have this on a shirt or this on a shirt. And I Google it and nothing would come up. So I was like, you know what? Okay, maybe I'll start creating my own then, you know?
Yes.
And so it took a year. It took a year for me to get the courage to actually start it. And at that time I was a high school assistant principal when I started. And so I started it. I fell in love with it. I was hustling and grinding, you know, doing my full time in education and then coming home in the evenings and work and weekends and work in my business. And luckily 2020, things just kind of blew up. Things went really well. And my husband ended up accepting a job in another state. And so we were going to have to move and I was going to have to quit my job anyway. And God has started showing me, look at what I can do for you. If you just trust me, look at what I can do for you. And so I did. I said, all right, told my husband, I was like, I think I'm going to be done when we leave. Like, I'm just going to run my business full time. And he was like, all right, do it. So, yeah.
Awesome. Listen. Okay. So first and foremost, I did that because I have on a shirt. Trying to get it in. There you go. Yeah. So I have on a shirt. I'm a t-shirt lover too. So I'm all about, hey, Crystal, I am all about expression on my shirt and on my chest.
Yes.
So I have a few. I actually had to do a fashion show for Stephen today to decide which one to wear because I was going to wear the unapologetically a Black woman. Then I was going to rep the motherhood. I'm like, oh, I was going to put got this guy, but I'm like, then I'll be sweating because it's a sweatshirt. But yeah, talk about. And because Barry Ward just posted and he said your husband is the real deal. Talk about that. Talk about what it's like to have that conversation and what made it easy. So let me tell y'all. So I know Twana because we went to college together. We are line sisters of the best sorority in the world. I can say that because this is my platform. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the Alpha Side Chapter. So I can say that. So when I say her husband's name, y'all will be like, how'd you know her husband? Yeah. Okay. So talk about Martez and what that was like to just go to him and to have that support from him at that moment.
Yeah. So here's the funny background story a little bit. So when I first started my t-shirt brand, it was in 2017. And at that time, I said, you know what? Once I got like that entrepreneur bug, I was like, whoo, like I don't know. Like, I think this is what I want to
Yeah.
do. Education has been cool all this time. And so I went to him and I was like, babe, now at this point, I maybe have been a year in, maybe. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, babe, like, I think I want to do this full time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I want to quit my job, And
Mm-hmm.
he was like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Yeah, he thinks he's the
Yeah.
VP.
Yeah.
He's like, let's talk about it. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we went out to dinner and he started, asking me numbers questions and what about this and what about that? And I'm like, he was like, okay, well, if you quit your job and you don't have that same money coming in,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have to sacrifice travel. You're going to have to sacrifice this. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, no, thank you. Okay, cool. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But he was so delicate with it. Like, he could have been like, no, ma'am, take your tail
Yeah.
to work. But no, he listened to me and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. So when 2020 came and I had the receipts to back
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
my
Uh-huh.
claims,
Yeah.
then he was like, all right, let's do it. Let's go for it. So yeah,
That's awesome.
it felt
That's
amazing.
Yeah, and I will say, and I'm going to shout out my husband Stephen because he was the exact same way. Now, we didn't move. I actually lost my job, which is a blessing in disguise.
Mhm.
And so when we had the conversation, and he knew that I've always wanted to be a speaker, he knew that I've always wanted to be a coach, and that I've always enjoyed it. He had the same response. He was like,
Mhm.
So you're gonna have to sacrifice some things, And of course, in 2020, it was like, okay, I mean, we ain't going nowhere, so
Right, exactly.
travel's not important,
Exactly.
Yeah, that's okay. So he was really supportive as well, and he was like, okay, if this is what you want to do, let's see how we can make it happen. And so I didn't realize this, but next year it will be 1 year that I have not had a corporate job. And I
Yay.
am officially working for myself. And I say in ministry because I think that I know that what I'm doing, and I know that about you too, that what we do is
Yep.
ministry. And it's not just about making money for ourselves or having that exposure, but really about giving back and really
Yep.
sharing what we have and what we offer to other people. And I think that's what makes it a blessing, and that's what you're in alignment. Number one, when you can tell your husband and he don't think you're crazy, but also when you can see the successes happening because you're walking in purpose. And
Yes.
so, what was one of your the hardest things, like the biggest challenge that you had that made you say, or did you say? Because I was like, had a couple moments where I was like, listen, I might go back to work because
Right.
this is not how it goes. So what were moments that you had that were kind of like, I don't really know how this is gonna go?
Yeah. So initially, like, just leading up to this point and making the decision to jump out and do this full time, like, I was golden. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I know it was nothing but God,
Yeah,
because I had complete peace about it. I wasn't
yeah,
worried about a
absolutely.
thing. Now, fast forward to being in it,
Yeah,
I was like, "Whoo, Jesus!"
yeah,
So I am not very good at holding myself accountable to do things for myself. So
yeah,
when I had a boss, if something needed to be done,
yeah,
I got it
absolutely,
done because my
absolutely,
boss told me it needed to be done, like,
absolutely.
non-negotiable. If I tell myself something needs to be done, I don't have the same effect on myself
Yeah,
the boss
absolutely,
has on
absolutely.
me. So that has been definitely an adjustment
Okay.
for me
Hmm.
to garner, and I'm still working on it. I'm
Yeah,
still literally in the thick of working on that discipline to do what I know needs to be done because it needs to be done. You
yeah,
know what
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Now, that's speaking to me because I am learning that lesson right now too. I am at the point where I'm trying to do the same thing, hold myself accountable, and then it's like 20 different things that you want to do, and they
Girl.
need to get done. And so you have, and it's like I have my to do list, but it doesn't matter because for every strike I take, there are 20 more that I add, and then I look at it
Exactly.
like, okay, what are we really capable of
Mhm.
in this amount of time? And so it's really a struggle. And I think it's also a struggle for me because I'm used to things falling in line right away.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it was, I mean, I know it was the favor of God, but I felt like in the corporate environment or where I was working, things just happened.
Mhm.
Now it's like I got to turn over the rocks. And
Mhm.
I'm like, ooh, I don't really
Yeah.
know if
Yeah.
and so it's a challenge for me to not only just do the work, but be comfortable doing the work because
Mhm.
this has been the most vulnerable than I think I've ever been in my life. And of course, with vulnerability comes exposure, comes criticism, comes all of those things. And that's been the biggest lesson. What's like the biggest lesson that you've learned as an entrepreneur?
Geez. So, okay. The biggest lesson that I've probably learned is when I first started out, and I'm still a solopreneur at this point. I'm slowly building my team. But I operated in solopreneur mode because I didn't know any better. I didn't know that I needed to be thinking about the future. And when I'm no longer a solopreneur and I'm CEO. And so that has probably been the biggest lesson, because now that I have had that mind shift and I'm operating or attempting to operate in CEO mode, now I've got to go back and redo, or not redo, but now I got to go back and put all these steps in place that I should have been doing back then, but I didn't know I needed to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got to lay the foundation, because we're doing the work. And so it's so natural for me to jump in and do this part and this part and this part, but never stop it. Like right now, I put lights up, I'm doing all of the pieces. And then at some point it's going to come a day where I'm going to have to tell somebody what to do. And I got to be prepared, and I got to know. And I got to know what I want. I got to know I have to have all of those pieces in place in order to really, really, really be successful. And I'll say this, to the degree that I want it to be, because you're like me, we know exactly what we want. So we want to do it the way we want to do it. And the idea of letting somebody else do it.
It took a lot of coaching to get me to even where I am right now. And I remember my coach would say, okay, Twana, you have it all in your head, but it's not helpful to anyone else in your head.
That's true.
You have to start writing this stuff down. You have to start, writing your procedures out, and, figuring out what your standard operating procedures are. Like, you have to start being able to get things in a position to hand off to other people. And I'm like, ain't nobody gonna do it the way I'm gonna do it. No one's gonna do it the way I'm gonna do it.
No.
But unless I want to be doing all of it for the rest of my life.
And that's not effective. I mean, that's not effective for our time. It's not effective for our lives. So it's really important that we get to a point where we're like, okay, I'm releasing it. And, it's our baby. So because it's our baby, we hold on to it so very much. But at some point, we've got to trust that God will bring the right people in our lives and into our business who love it just as much as we do. And maybe not even love it as much, but we'll care for it as much as we care for it. So that we can say, now I feel comfortable giving you the opportunity or the responsibilities. So that you can take it from there.
So I had, I was having a conversation on Clubhouse. And I'm talking about, this is my baby, and I know I need to do this, but I'm worried and how they're going to handle it and so forth. And this guy jumps in and he goes, can I say something to you? And I said, yeah, go ahead. He was like, no one cares that it's your baby. And I was like, wow, but it's true.
Ooh,
it's true.
Nobody else cares. That's true. That's absolutely true. That's true.
So nobody else cares. So it was that it literally clicked for me in that moment.
No, that's a good way to look at it. And it's funny, in nonprofit world, they have an idea. They have the kind of concept where people who create nonprofits at some point have to let it go, because they call it like the founder syndrome, which is that where you have had it so long, you've been doing it for so long that it's only operated in the way that you've operated it. And so a lot of times we stifle it because we only see it the way we've seen it. And it's almost like, somebody has to shake you and say, if you would just release the reins and take a step back, we will be able to do so much more. I think that is absolutely, absolutely awesome. Let me ask you this. So as you're walking through this, what is the biggest fear you've had?
Failure. Failure.
Yes.
And I literally just did an Instagram post on this the other day, talking about how no one talks about the F word and the positive things in the F word. It's fear gets such a bad stigma, and people have coined it as like a bad word,
Mhm.
when in actuality, there are good things that come out of it. There are
Absolutely.
lessons that come out of, failure,
Absolutely.
and you get data.
Mhm. Mhm.
You learn from that data, and hopefully you switch some things up
Yeah.
so that you can then move on and do something else and fail again
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
again and again.
That's
And
good.
and so it definitely takes a mindset shift for us
Mhm.
to come to the realization that it is completely okay to fail.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fine. There's good in
Yeah.
failure. There are
And
lessons in
we're not
failure.
taught that. And I think we're not taught that culturally. I think as women, we're not taught that, especially as Black women, we're not taught
Mhm.
that. As entrepreneurs, we're not taught that because I have watched so many videos. I have listened to so many speeches, and people don't really sit in or tell you about their failures.
Mhm.
Everybody wants to tell you about where they are now and how great they
Mhm.
are, and you can pay this money, and for this money, I'm gonna teach you how to be successful. Well, you can't, because it wasn't a one shot for you. You made
Right.
some mistakes along the way. You
Right.
failed. Some things
Right.
didn't work out. And so I think it's super important as entrepreneurs that we talk about that. The moments where
Mhm.
it was like, okay, for real, nothing went right.
Right.
It did not go
Right.
well. That was the
Yes.
worst idea in the world. And
Yes.
because that was the worst idea in the world, I just, and because of that, here's what I did. So now
Mhm.
you see my story, and you see the glory, but you don't understand all the mistakes I made along the way, or all the
Yep.
challenges that I had. And I'm looking for, and I want to work with people, and this is an entrepreneurship, my personal life, and anything, with people who are not afraid to say that they've made the mistakes. They're
Mhm.
not afraid to say they messed up. They're not afraid to say it didn't work. They're not afraid to say, listen, there was a time in my life where I didn't think I was going to ever get past this point,
Mhm.
because it's a challenge to run a business, but it's also a challenge to be a wife. It's a challenge to be a mother. It's a challenge
Right.
to figure out how to work social media. It's a challenge to cook every day, or whatever we do. But we
Right.
spend so much time on the pretty stuff that we
Mhm.
forget there's the ugly stuff that has made the pretty stuff pretty. Because if there
Yes.
was no ugly, there would be no
Yes.
pretty. If there was no failure, there would be no success. So we've
Yes.
got to always remember that it's okay to fail,
Yep.
and we got to keep going, and you got to get your lessons from it, and you got to understand the purpose behind it. Because I believe if I had gotten everything that I wanted in this business the way I wanted it at the time that I wanted it, I wouldn't give God no credit, because I would feel
Oh,
like it's all me.
yes.
It's all me.
Girl.
Everything that I've done would be me. If
Yeah.
every client booked, if every idea
Right.
made it, then it would all be me. And so where would there
Mhm.
be humbleness? Where would there be gratitude? Where would those things be? Because I've spent all my time like, well, look what I did.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
a story that really, really made me decide I need to start making it's taken
Hmm.
some I'm
Yeah.
still,
Yeah.
again, still
Absolutely.
progressing and changing
Absolutely.
my mindset on it. But the story that really, really stood out for me is, and I cannot think of her name, but the creator of Spanx.
Oh,
She was
okay.
on a talk show and she
Hmm.
talked about how every day at the dinner table, her dad would ask her and her siblings how they failed that day. How did you fail
Ooh,
today?
wow. Okay.
It was literally a discussion every single day at dinner. How did you? And she said that trained them to be
Hmm.
okay with failure and to keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. And I was like, girl,
And especially because she made the woman's best gift in the world. So
yes,
her name is Sarah
exactly,
Blakely. And Sarah Blakely, we are so glad you failed.
exactly,
Because of your failure, we are
exactly.
all stuffed in a way that works for us. So thank you
Yes,
so much for
yes.
failure. And so what are some of the things that you think make you stand out in this area? Like what are some of the, I mean, of course you got fabulous products, but what do you think is the driving force behind your success, and what has happened for you? So first let's talk about your success. Let's talk about how you went from educator, solopreneur, making t-shirts, to you tell the rest, to where you marginalize this thing to like, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, like I said, in 2020, things just kind of really blew up. And it really came with me being more consistent in everything I needed to do.
Mhm.
There's a lot that goes into e-commerce, and I would do bits and pieces here and bits and
Mhm.
pieces there. And again, that discipline of
Yeah.
making
Mhm.
myself do what I know needs to be
Yeah.
done. And so it was 2020 that I was really like, okay, I'm about to get
Mhm.
consistent on all of this, like email marketing, running
Mhm.
Facebook ads,
Yeah.
building up my Instagram on it. Like I got consistent on all of it.
Mhm.
And I really, really saw extreme growth. Like I
Mhm.
5x my revenue from 2019 to 2020. All from
Wait, say
getting
say that again. Because no, we can, and not, I know you're not doing it because you're boasting, but
right.
it's a testament to faith in God, to courage and consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so those are things that we all struggle with: faith in
Yeah.
God, courage and consistency. So
Yeah.
you did those things and trusted
Yeah.
God, and you, how many times your revenue? Yeah,
5x my
that's
my
awesome.
my
That
revenue.
is
Yeah.
awesome. That is
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so, with that, I, I God also, not only did he put on my heart that for me to do that full time, but he also said, now you need to help others.
Hmm.
You did.
Hmm.
And I got to where I am because of others helping me.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
am a firm believer in investing in coaching, and getting help in masterminds and,
Hmm.
all of that
Hmm.
stuff, and community. Oh my gosh,
Absolutely.
community
Absolutely.
is huge. And so I wanted to be that for someone else.
Hmm. Hmm.
I wanted to provide that for someone else. And so it wasn't until, like, I would help people all the time. People would DM me with questions like, oh, how do
Yeah.
you do this? How'd you grow your following? How'd you start?
Yeah.
Lead me here and I would, answer and
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
around about my business. And it wasn't until someone reached out to me and she was like, and this is someone I had helped before.
Yeah.
She
Hmm.
was like, I know you don't offer one-on-one coaching, but I really need your help one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I was like, hmm,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. And then so that was the first seed God sowed, and
Hmm.
it's been a wrap from there. And so that's another part of what I'm doing is helping other women with e-commerce businesses to grow their business and get consistent. And you talked about what makes me stand out.
Hmm.
I'm really good at knowing who my target audience is,
Yeah.
and knowing what she wants and speaking to her really well, and presenting myself and my brand in a way that makes them fall in love. And
Yeah.
so now, I want to help other ladies do that same thing with their brand too.
That is awesome. And that's, I mean, anybody who's an entrepreneur, let me tell you, the hardest thing to do is to figure out your target audience. I had so many conversations with people about target audience. Let me tell you, in a year of being where I am, I think I'm just getting to the point where I'm comfortable
Mm-hmm.
with my target audience, because
Mm-hmm.
I thought my target audience was something else based
Mm-hmm.
on the work that I had done externally. But the more that I've sat with myself, the more that I have just really looked at my messaging and who I am and what I
Yes.
want to send to the world, it
Yes.
started to shift. And it's been a challenge, because it's to be known for something for so long, and then to make a shift and to say, okay, I'm going to do something different, and not different, but something that really speaks to who you
Mm-hmm.
are, because I think your
Mm-hmm.
target audience has to really also resonate with you. And so
Yes.
many times we're looking at outward at people and saying, this is who I want my person to be. But
Yep.
if you don't have any relationship with that person, you won't have any relationship with your target audience. So then you
Yep.
find yourself spending money, making products, doing all those things for people
Mm-hmm.
who
Who don't
will
want it.
never,
Not interested at all.
no, 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 no. And and when Crystal said, yeah, the deeper you go, the further you grow.
Yep.
Exactly. And it's okay to be specific.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And
okay to
I
be
think
specific.
so. Two things that
Mhm.
people think, or they start
Mhm.
off with, like you said, one was being afraid to get specific, because when you're first starting out, you think, well, shoot, the wider my net,
Yeah.
the more fish I'm gonna pull
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
it don't quite work like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It don't quite
Yeah.
work like that. And in fact, it's the opposite, because you have to have a marketing message that's going to speak to the people that you need to be sharing something with.
Absolutely.
Whatever that
Absolutely.
product or that service is that you have,
Absolutely.
you need to know exactly who needs it, why they need it, and why they need yours and not someone else's.
That's
And
it.
so if you don't, the second part of that is, so if you don't clearly know what that is for you, what that product is, what that service is, what that brand message is, who you are, then you're not going to be able to move on to then figure out who your target audience is. And I think a lot of times, especially people with physical products, they start off with, well, shoot, I want to sell lashes, or, shoot, I want to sell pet toys, or what. They start off with the product, but they don't really identify the need and the persona behind, what that brand needs to be and how it's going to relate to other people. So,
all right. Well, let me ask you this question. Who's Twana Moore?
Ooh.
Yes, who's Twana? So we know who your target audience is. We can see that and we can follow you and see that. But who's Twana Moore?
That, Joy, I don't think I've ever been asked that question before. That's a good question.
Good. All right.
So I am just a very relational person who is very I try to be at least very authentic. I'm an empath. I take on other people's feelings. And I'm a wife and a mom of a grown and almost grown son, who, I just like to be happy. Like someone asked me the other day, we were talking about manifestation, and she was like, what do you want? And she was like, don't overthink it. Don't tell me things. Don't tell me people. Don't tell me places. What do you want? And the first thing that popped in my head was to be happy. Like, I just enjoy being happy.
Well, you got a cheerleader right here with Crystal Garcia. She said you're the best bestie ever. And she said you're the mama bear. So yeah.
I am a mama bear.
So tell me, what does happiness look like? What does it look like?
You know what? I'm not even certain I can describe it in, I don't know. It's just me being with friends, being with family, enjoying life, me just living life, me really experiencing life the way that I want to experience it. And whether that's, because the 16 years I put into education, I loved. It was my passion at the time. And no one, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, you couldn't have told me I wasn't going to retire as a principal. And that made me happy at the time.
Yeah.
So for me, happiness is just wherever I feel like I need to be, wherever God is pulling me to be, whoever God is pulling me to be towards and around, that's what makes me happy. Seeing the world makes me happy. I love traveling. Just being able to be me, without, one of the things that I'm honestly pretty glad to be able to kind of put in my back pocket is code switching, and even though the education system isn't corporate America, I worked in a school system that was predominantly white. And so I felt like I had to hide the Black parts of me sometimes. You know what I'm saying? So just being able to be me authentically and being around people I love, that's what makes me happy.
But that's so awesome. And it's so valuable because authenticity is not celebrated the way that it should. And I believe that most people experience authenticity when they become entrepreneurs. And it's unfortunate that you can't be your authentic self anywhere else except in your family and friend circle, if you're lucky, because there's some people who can't even be authentic there. But in your corporate life, there are a lot of times that you can't show up who you are. And it's not just about the color of your skin or your hair. It's about your emotions. It's about your philosophies. It's about your thoughts. Many of us censor ourselves all the time for fear of retaliation, repercussion, that you'll look at me differently. I struggled with that when I first started working in this area, because I am an unapologetic Christian. That's who I am. I believe 100%. Anybody who knows me knows that I don't care what you see at the core of who I am. And so all of my messaging has turned spiritual. and it wasn't intentional, but what's in you comes out of you. And so it's become a part of my messaging. It's become a part of what I say. And that was hard for me to not accept, but to not be concerned about what other people thought about it. And realizing that it's going to turn some people off. Well, okay, then you weren't meant to come with me and walk with me anyway. And I'm okay with the fact that it doesn't work for you, but it works for me because in being unapologetically joy and authentically joy, I am a believer. I am somebody who loves the Lord and will shout it as many times. I got more Jesus t-shirts because that's just, and my husband is like, are you going to wear a Jesus t-shirt today? Absolutely. Every chance I get, I'm gonna put it on because I may not, like my friend Regina said, I may not want to talk to you today, but at least you can read it, right? You can at least see. But I think that we all suffer in some ways of not really feeling that we can be authentic and really, or we don't even know what authentic us looks like because we've worn the mask so much, we've played the games so much that when the layers are stripped, we're sitting like.
But you know what? I'm gonna take that in another direction, beyond work and corporate America and so forth, because I had to find my authentic self again after my boys got older, because I became Tuana the mom.
Yes.
And I forgot who Tuana
Yes. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So that's another area too of just having to really, really dig deep and figure out who that person is inside that you've been kind of hiding in for a while or suppressing for whatever reason. And needing to pull her back out.
And in 2020, I think we all had to sit with her in some way, in some form. The pandemic forced us to sit with her, and all of us didn't come out, changing, but at least I think we are more aware of who she is. And now we're making educated choices on if she is displayed. And I think that the courage that we're demonstrating now as women is we are taking our stands and we are saying, this is who I am, or this is who we are, because some of us are, tribal. So we've got a tribe of women. And we're comfortable saying that to the world now. We're comfortable walking in our queendom and our God-given authority. But I believe that if we had not had a pandemic where we all had to slow down and stop and breathe, we might have missed the opportunity for the shift. Because I do believe there's been a shift in how we live, a shift in how we worship, a shift in how we love. Everything has changed. And I think if we hadn't had the pandemic, we would have missed those moments to be different. And to be better and to grow and to develop. And many of us have come out on the other side so much better because we've been faced with situations that were, number one, beyond our control. And number two, that really made us all uncomfortable. Because I don't know about you, but I was absolutely uncomfortable. There were many days that I was like, Lord, this whole pandemic thing, sitting, and I love myself. I'm an only child. I love being by myself, but even I got sick of myself. I was like, oh, Joy, get it together. Like, you are all too much. So even I got to a point where I had to go back and start to realign, revisit, and think differently and act differently and be different. And I think that that's a blessing, to have those moments where you can reflect. And so in those moments, what do you hear? What do you hear? What do you hear in those moments?
Mostly, what I've been hearing lately has been trusting yourself.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. That's what I've been hearing lately, because I have not done a very good job of doing that in the past 42 years.
Okay.
And that's with everything, even, as an educator before moving into entrepreneurship. I've never really been good at identifying my strengths. I've never really been good at connecting how these strengths can then, help me to move to this spot and so forth. And so, when I went after things because I felt like I would do well doing it, but I couldn't communicate how. So I was about to say, I don't know how, but it was nothing but God
Yeah.
how I was able to get the promotions I did get.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm like,
Absolutely.
I've never really been able to do that because I guess I didn't really trust myself to be able to
Mhm.
do it, you
Yeah.
know? And so, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's the word for the day. Trust yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not even, I say it's not even about you. It's about the God in you and the gift and the vision that he's given you. So
Yes.
it's about trusting that what he's committed to you and promised you is
Yes.
going to come to pass if you walk it
Yes.
out. But you
Yep.
got to trust that you're
Mhm.
equipped. You've got to trust that this is the right time. You've got to trust that the resources will come. I think those
Yep.
are all things that we struggle with because it's easy to say, okay, yeah, that'll happen. But
Mhm.
how? And so we get
Mhm.
so caught up in the how that it's easy for us to start to see the things that we don't have, the things
Mhm.
that aren't lining up. And
Mhm.
so we lack trust in God, in ourselves, and our resources, and our time, and our abilities, and our strengths, and we magnify our weaknesses or the lack, and we miss those moments where it's like, no, I'm doing something for you, daughter. If you just trust,
Yes.
if you
Yes.
just trust, if you just
Yep.
trust, if you just slow down, take a step, believe that it can happen. So,
Mhm.
hey, that is good. You got to trust yourself.
Yep.
That
Yep.
is really, really good. All right. Well, Twana, tell people how they can get in touch with you, what you have coming up, so that people can continue to follow you and find out more about your products. Because, yes, it's e commerce. That means she's got stuff. So, whereas she can impart good knowledge and wisdom, she's also got products. So, you want to make a purchase of products and you want to sign up for all the things she has going on. So, go ahead and tell everybody about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So my t-shirt brand is called Personally She. And yeah, so Personally She is for I created her in my image.
Mm-hmm.
She's for the bougie hood black woman, but also, loves God, but Cash Money Records may cut
Yeah,
run to the dance floor. So
absolutely.
so that's who Personally She is, and you can find Personally She on Facebook, Instagram at Personally She. Website is personallyshe.com. And then you can find me most at Girl Code Win on Instagram, as well as Facebook, and that's where I communicate from the community side of my coaching. I'm building a community of women in e-commerce there, and I'm passionate about helping women. We talked about that target audience earlier. I have a
Yes.
workshop coming up next Saturday, May 8th, where I'm teaching e-commerce owners. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Love God, Cash Money Records.
It's
Exactly.
something about that drop, that dun, dun, dun,
Right.
dun, dun. It's just something about it. Okay. Go ahead.
Exactly. So on Saturday, May 8th, I'll be helping women in e-commerce to really dive in and tap into who their target audience is, because like that is the foundation of a business. And if you don't know exactly who needs your products, why they need your product, how you're going to find them, and how you're going to make that connection, then you're going to be spending a lot of time putting products in front of people who aren't interested at all. And so with that workshop, I'll be helping women to identify that. And so yeah, that's what I've got coming up, and just tap in if any of it resonates with you. Definitely.
Absolutely. And I want to say hi to Hannah. Hannah is across the pond, and she said, "Happy anniversary, Joy Jackson." She's been along with my journey. She's been my friend, my editor, all of those things. And so she's been a part of the journey even before the journey began. So thank you so much. I made
Yay.
something for my anniversary. I might have to celebrate some kind of way. Now that
Yes.
we get out a
Yes.
little bit into the world, it might be worth it. But Twana, I do want to say this publicly, and I say this because people like me watch you from afar. I mean, I've known you as many years as we've been in college. We're not going to tell people the truth.
Right.
So in a few years, we'll be silver sorors. But people like me have been watching you, and to see what God has done for you, and to know who you are, know where you've come from, and to see the amazing work that you're doing, and to see it manifest in the way, and to see how you're growing is so inspiring. And that's why when I said change the game, I actually meant that, because you're the first entrepreneur that I know, like
Yeah.
that I know, and I've seen
Yeah.
from when we were all buying t-shirts because we loved
Right.
you, to now
Yes.
getting on the site and it's sold out. Like, wait a minute, you know.
Yes.
So I applaud you in the work that you have done. I applaud the way you support your husband. I applaud the way you've raised your boys. And and so I am so very proud of you as a sister, as my soror, as my line sister, and I am so excited to see what more God is going to do for you. So
Thank
I just want to publicly tell you that because I think you're the
you,
bomb.
babe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you all so much for joining the Leadership Lunch Break today. Of course, you will be able to see it. You can share it with your friends and your family and other girlfriends that you know need this inspiration. You can find it on the Speaking of Joy Facebook page, Speaking of Joy YouTube channel. It will be on IGTV in just a few minutes, as well as LinkedIn. So there is no reason why you can't learn these principles so that you can trust yourself and lead with courage. Until we meet again, have a good one.
Thank you for joining the Leadership Lunch Break. Join us next Thursday at noon Central Standard Time for lunch as we continue our discussions. Follow Speaking of Joy on all social media platforms or visit our website at www.speakingofjoy.com. That's www.speakingofjoye.com. Until next week.